everybody doing today? Good! That's a great school that Angela told me about. I know that we're here to talk about selflessness and altruism, but I want to ask you guys a question first that is on the screen. What is the greatest gift you have ever received? We are just coming off the Christmas holiday, and a lot of us got a lot of great gifts and presents. I want you to think about that question. Is there anybody in the room that has something that immediately jumps into their mind? Yes, ma'am, in the back. Happiness. You were given the gift of happiness. Specifically in which way? By being around your family. Anybody else? Ma'am, you had something? Which Broadway show was it?
Jeremy Hansen.
All right, tickets to a Broadway show, and that was up in New York. You got to see one of your dream shows. Yes, sir?
Money.
Money. All right, money is a very versatile gift. Yes, ma'am. Your family themselves, the love from your family. Yes, sir. An air hockey table. Awesome. I'm going to take one more in the back. Man, put your hand up against the wall. Creativity, a gift that God gave you, correct? All right. So those are all great gifts. In a little bit, I'm going to tell you about the greatest gift that I have ever received and why it ties into selflessness and the person and the family and the people that gave it to us. But before we get into that, I'm not just here to talk about selflessness, and I'm not just here to inspire you. I'm here to make you laugh, and I'm here to entertain you. Who knows who the Houston Rockets are? Yeah. There's a good chance that I've actually hugged at least half the people in this room. Now, when I start out speeches that way at places around the city, people get a little creeped out. But the reason that I've probably hugged you is for 21 years, from 2005 when I created the character until 2016 when I left the Houston Rockets, I was Houston Rockets mascot Clutch the Bear. Did 1,500 games, 6,000 appearances, including 2,000 school shows, traveled into 12 different countries, did Armed Forces entertainment tours, and hopefully entertained and made a lot of people laugh along the way. Gave her a new son that looked the exact same, only a better version in the jersey. So we've used my family in a lot of the bits over the years. My personal story and my family story starts about 11 years ago when my father, Paul, was diagnosed with idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. It is a hardening of the lungs with no known cause and no known cure. It's not lifestyle related. It's simply a disease that doctors don't know much about or how to cure it. Sometimes people are diagnosed with it and pass away within 6 months. Sometimes people are diagnosed with it and live 20 years. So there's just very little known about it. And 11 years ago, my father was diagnosed with it, and he lived with it for 4 years, when in the fall of 2011, things took a really bad turn for the worse. And he was having to use oxygen. He wasn't using it as much as he was supposed to. We got conflicting reports from different doctors that he was seeing, but he should have been on it 24 hours a day. Things progressed to the point where he couldn't attend Rockets games, and he loved coming out and seeing his son run around in a big teddy bear suit and do skits, but he couldn't do that anymore. To the point in February of 2012, I came out with my twin boys to visit my parents for lunch in the Woodlands. We live very close to each other, and brought the boys out, and my dad couldn't even get through one sentence without having to stop and gasp for air. The next day, I was supposed to go on a trip for 8 days around the country, performing at different NBA games, and at that point, I decided I'm not going on that trip. I figuratively wrestled my dad's doctor's numbers away from him. He was kind of old school and didn't want to be a bother, and thought, oh, we'll take care of it in a couple weeks when I have my next appointment. But it was very clear to me things were at a critical stage. I called his doctors, and when I got a hold of the doctor at the top of the chain, and he heard that my father's oxygen levels had dropped into the 60s overnight. And just to give you an example, our oxygen levels should be about 97 to 99% in our bloodstream. His were in the 60s. And this doctor freaked and said he's at risk of all kinds of organ failure, from stroke to heart attack, and he could pass at any minute. You need to get him to the hospital right now. can you make it to Methodist in the Woodlands, or do you think you can make it downtown to Methodist downtown? And I could tell that that was the better option because they were more equipped and suited. And when that was said to me, 15-minute drive versus 45-minute drive, it was very apparent how dire the situation was. We got to the hospital. He couldn't even make it to the car. I was carrying him kind of like a wounded soldier, and we had to stop only 10 feet from the passenger side of the car, and I had to yell back at my mom to bring a chair out from the dining room, and he had to sit just to catch his breath. So things were really, really bad. We got to the hospital, and within a few hours, power of attorney was signed over to me, and I was to make all the decisions for the family, and the doctors informed me, your dad has at most 12 weeks to live. And the only solution is going to be an organ transplant. Within a week, he was on the list. And then on Valentine's Day 2012, we got a call, and that changed the story dramatically. That's some pretty serious and heavy stuff, and I know it's a little bit of a downer. I told you I was going to make you laugh, and I'm going to make good on my promise. Gift that you've ever received was. The greatest gift that I personally have ever received, that my family has received, and I know my father thinks the same way, came in the form of a double lung transplant on Valentine's Day night 2012 from a young man from the Dallas-Fort Worth area named Ian Heidemann. He's a 22-year-old man that tragically passed in a car accident, and he was doing so. His selfless, forward-thinking, it saved my dad's life and 4 other people's lives. Somebody got the heart, somebody got the pancreas, somebody got the liver. Actually, another person got his hand, and it was the second hand transplant in America. It was a farmer that lost his hand in a combine accident. That forever changed the Heidemann's lives. And we met the Heidemans. We had the privilege of meeting them a year later. Life Gift is the organization that meets donors and recipients. So they match organ transplants. They take body shape, blood type, all the different things that go into it. And then they also facilitate the meeting of donor families and recipient families. And because of Ian's gift, my dad is now 7 years post-transplant. And he gets to enjoy not only his first set of twins, but his second set of twins. He's completely healthy. He takes his medications every day. And there are people that have received lung transplants that are over 20 years. It's an emerging field still that they get better and better at technologically with the drug. Upon this happening, I was floored, because when I would visit my dad in the hospital, I saw a Life Gift table, and I said, what can I do to help this cause? And they said, are you an organ donor? I pulled out my license thinking, oh yeah, I remember when I turned 16, I checked the box. And in fact, I was ashamed to find out I was not an organ donor. At some point when I moved, changed addresses, re-upped my license, whatever it was, I wasn't. I immediately figured this was an awareness issue and there must be other people like myself. So I took it upon myself as making this a cause, almost a religion of sorts, for me to convince as many people out there to say yes to organ donation as possible. Because when you're passed on, your soul exists, but your body is merely left behind. And there's absolutely no reason to let that go to waste when there's lives that can be saved. Here is a picture of the meeting of the Heidemans. They're about 10 years older than me. They had a 22-year-old son, and they're listening to their son's lungs inside of my dad's chest. So that's Rob on the left, that's Janice on the right. The African-American individual in the back of that picture is Reggie King. He received Ian's heart. Everybody that received one of those vital organs is still alive today because Ian Heidemann made the decision to designate himself as an organ donor. I got connected to the Todd Krampitz Foundation because of their story. Todd had a transplant. Unfortunately, that transplant, there were complications and he passed away a year after having it, which is not completely uncommon, but medical technology is getting better and better. That family turned around in the wake of that tragedy. They decided to do something good for others in a selfless way and spread the word about the value of registering to be an organ donor so that they could save lives, because it was very hard for Todd to find that organ when he needed it. And we got hooked up with running, because we're a Run for the Reason cause for the Houston Marathon. I've run 3 Houston half marathons in full costume as Clutch in order to draw attention to this cause and get people to sign up. This is a little bit about that.
Today's a special day. It's the 2nd consecutive year that I've run the Houston Half Marathon in full costume as Clutch for organ donation awareness. My father's life was saved by an organ donor on February 15th, 2012 that saved his life. He was suffering from idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, which is a non-lifestyle related lung disease, a hardening of the lungs, and it was compounded by a case of pneumonia, and I had rushed him to the hospital on February 2nd, 2012. The doctors basically said he has about 3 months to live if he doesn't get a transplant. And a week later, he was on the transplant list, and a week later after that, he got the transplant that saved his life. So that's what today's about. Today's about creating the biggest spectacle in a fun, silly, goofy way with a 6'8", 92-inch waist teddy bear that's going to run 13.1 miles, and he's going to stand out in the crowd, and people are going to turn their heads and go, "What? This is ridiculous. This is amazing. This is silly." And then when they do turn their heads, they're going to see the band across my forehead that has DonateLifeTexas.org on it, and they're going to see the message on my t-shirt, the 6XL that it is, along with the rest of my team that's running with me, that says Team Clutch. I run for organ donation awareness. DonateLifeTexas.org. Become an organ donor today. Today is one piece of my quest to try to convince as many people in our country to say yes to organ donation as possible. There's 120,000 people on the transplant waiting list. 18 people die every single day in our country that otherwise would have been saved if there was enough available organs and people registered to be organ donors. It's something that everybody can participate in. It's something that everybody might benefit at one point in their life. And it only takes about 60 seconds to go online and sign up. Most people, it's just an awareness issue, and it's about taking the time to do it. Every major world religion supports organ donation, and we're going to make a difference.
So it takes 60 seconds. 60 seconds to register. You can do it from your phone. It's a great act of selflessness to give the greatest gift of all. The greatest gift of all is that of life and somebody's second chance. My father got it. Todd got it. You might receive it one day. I would encourage you to do